Sports Center, we got Stephen A. Smith to weigh in on this news. The Knicks hire Mike Brown as their new head coach. Stephen A. Smith joining us now on the phone. And Stephen A., we know you're a huge Knicks fan. Your reaction to this hire?
Well, I respect the hell out of Mike Brown. I will honestly tell you it lacks sizzle, but certainly not credentials. I mean, he's a four-time champion as an assistant coach. He achieved those rings by working under two of the greatest coaches the game has ever seen in Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr. On top of all of that, he's a two-time coach of the year, 2009 in Cleveland and obviously a couple of years back in Sacramento. He's coached the team to an NBA Finals, which is what he did with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then when you combine all of that with the fact that he's won 60% of his games, and he guided the Sacramento Kings to their first playoff berth in 16 years after a 16-year absence, which was an NBA record at the time. You can't sit up there and question the credentials of this hire. Mike Brown is qualified as a head coach in the NBA circles. He deserves this opportunity. It's just that obviously when you just came within 2 games of an NBA Finals and you decide to let go of your coach, that is Tom Thibodeau, you're expecting a bigger name. But there's nobody this way, meaning me, that's going to question the credentials of Mike Brown and the fact that he's worthy and deserving of this opportunity.
And you laid it all out right there, the credentials, the pedigree. With all the injuries and uncertainty in the East next year, what are your expectations for this New York Knicks team?
Well, I expect them to be right back where we last saw them, which was in the Eastern Conference Finals, because the Boston Celtics don't have Jason Tatum. The Milwaukee Bucks don't have Damian Lillard to pair with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Even though Orlando just picked up Desmond Bane, you still expect the Knicks to be right there with them. The Cleveland Cavaliers had an exceptional season. Can't get much better than the season they had during the regular season, and yet we saw how they bowed out in the postseason. And so when you take all of those things into consideration and you're looking at the fact that the New York Knicks' top 7 players remain on their roster. You're talking about Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, Michael McBride, obviously Josh Hart, the Energizer Bunny himself. They haven't gone anywhere, so why should we expect less from the New York Knicks? We should expect at least the same.
And there's been a lot of talk about the similarities and differences between Mike Brown and Tom Thibodeau. How do you think Mike Brown's coaching style fits with this Knicks roster?
Well, I definitely think that he's a bit calmer and less intense than Tom Thibodeau. And by the way, he also has better credentials. Even though Tom Thibodeau is a champion as an assistant coach, well, Mike Brown's a 4-time champion. But Tom Thibodeau never took a team to the finals as a head coach. Mike Brown did, although he had LeBron James at his disposal instead of Jalen Brunson. So we get the fact that they're comparable coaches. And Mike Brown, from a personality standpoint, I personally love Tibbs. I think that he's an approachable person, an exceptional coach, et cetera, but clearly very intense as we see him on the sidelines, where Mike Brown may come across as a bit more relaxed, not as panicky as Tom Thibodeau in terms of having a winning record, winning basketball games, and still feeling compelled to have your starters out there late in games because, Lord help us, you might be able to come back from a 20-point lead with 60 seconds left. That's the kind of stuff that Tom Thibodeau is known. I'm being facetious to some degree, but that's just to explain his intensity. Mike Brown is a little less intense as a personality, but very much intense as a coach, certainly intense enough to be committed to getting the job done, and obviously his record, his credentials as a head coach in this league are not to be questioned. Kobe Bryant may have had questions when he was alive, God rest his soul, from time to time, or LeBron James may have had questions when Mike Brown was coaching them, relatively young in his career before he arrived in Golden State and helped Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors capture 3 championships, or at least before with LeBron James instead of Kobe. In the end, he's proven himself as a head coach in this game, and the New York Knicks, we can't look at them and say they don't have a quality head coach. That would be a misnomer. That would be a flat-out lie. That is not the case for Mike Brown. The man can coach, and he's proven it, and he deserves this opportunity.
And look, we saw it last season, the Knicks getting to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. What needs to be different this upcoming season in order for them to get over the hump with Mike Brown?
Well, I think they need to exercise their depth. That's why I'm glad to see them about to sign Jordan Clarkson and this guy Gershon. It's really good to get to see them have 2 additional guys that you can come off the bench and throw out there, because the starters were worn down, and that's one of the things. I said it many times, I'll say it again. The greatest line of the NBA season came from TNT's very own Kenny the Jet Smith when he said, Tom Thibodeau would have a problem playing 9 guys in a baseball game. That's what he said. And we all know you need 9 guys on the field in baseball. Tom Thibodeau would have a problem with that. That's not Mike Brown. Mike Brown is going to use his depth if the opportunity is presented to him to do so. He's not going to have to be pushed into doing that. He's the kind of individual that he recognizes the importance of depth, and that's something that he'll utilize, particularly during the regular season going into the playoffs and stuff like that. So I think that's the difference in their personalities. But in the end, the Knicks have to exercise that depth, and they have to have an additional big that you can put at the 5, so you're not asking Karl Anthony Towns to do that. He's a shooter. He's a big who shoots the basketball from the perimeter, preferably from three-point range. That's what you want from Karl Anthony Towns. That's what you need from Karl Anthony Towns. You need to make sure that you got another big so he doesn't have to play the 5.
Stephen A. weighing in on this huge Knicks out of the NBA. Let's bring in our senior NBA insider, Shams Charania, alongside our NBA analyst, Quentin Richardson, right now. And Shams, breaking news coming out of New York. What do you got for us?
I'm told 2-time NBA head coach of the year Mike Brown is expected to be named the next New York Knicks head coach. And this comes after Mike Brown had his second formal interview with the Knicks this week, and this time with owner James Dolan on Tuesday. And the job now will be his. Knicks president Leon Rose began this head coaching search about a month ago. When they fired Tom Thibodeau, they requested permission and were denied by 5 current head coaches, and then they started their process of interviewing several available coaches. They went through multi-round stages, and now Mike Brown, he's a 4-time champion as an assistant coach. I mean, he's coached a vast array of superstar talent across 3 decades as an NBA assistant and head coach. LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, De'Aaron Fox, and Domantas Sabonis most recently. And in 2022-23, he had the top-rated offense in the NBA. The Knicks are obviously hoping for that same type of adaptability and offensive creativity this upcoming season around Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns.
A lot of championship pedigree right there in Q. They say once a Knick, always a Knick. You played for the New York Knicks. What's your reaction to this hire?
I mean, I was surprised. I didn't know that, they was that serious about Mike Brown. But as you just heard Shams run down his list of accolades, man, Mike Brown is not a snooze at coach. He's been a great coach for a long time. He's been a part of a lot of great organizations and coaching staff, starting out in San Antonio with Pop. He was part of the Golden State Warriors championships. And like you said, he's been a 2-time head coach of the year himself. And recently in Sacramento, he did a great job with the Beam team and restoring that franchise to giving them something to hold their head about. So I like Mike Brown as a coach. I just don't think that the Knicks fans were thinking this was the move that was going to be made after they got rid of Tibbs and did the things that they did. But I think if they give Mike Brown a chance, he could do really good for them.
And Shams, you talked about the other candidates that the Knicks were looking at. What more do you know about the key factors that led New York to choose Mike Brown over those other candidates?
So Mike Brown was the 4th known candidate to interview for the job. So Taylor Jenkins, the former Grizzlies coach, James Borrego, associate coach of the Pelicans, Minnesota Timberwolves,